you for joining us for the third meeting of Daly City's Small Business Commission. I would like to call this meeting to order. Just an FYI to the group, I have received news that Commissioner Carson will not be joining us this evening and that Commissioner Hill will be a few minutes late. But I see that we have 3 of our commissioners on the call at current, which means we have achieved quorum. So we are free to move forward. As most of you know, my name is Brandon Phipps, Economic Development Specialist, and I am pleased to act as staff liaison in connection with this commission. Before we move to the pledge to the flag, I'd like to give a shout out to our visitors this evening. Welcome to Leilani Ramos, Stephen Stolte, Assistant City Manager and Assistant to the City Manager, and their presentation team. They will be leading the presentation and Q&A portion of the discussion this evening regarding a proposed disposable food service ware ordinance. Welcome to all others as well. Thank you for joining us. Without further ado, Commissioner Manio, in your new role as Commission Chair, could you please lead us through this evening's agenda, starting with the pledge to the flag?
Gladly. Thank you, Mr. Phipps, for starting us off.
Commissioner Manio, I'm not sure that your audio is coming through on our end.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just be closer. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Phipps. I would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Is someone going to show a flag? No? Can you hear me?
I can show a flag if you'd like to.
Okay. Well, I don't know. We don't, sure, we could pledge to a pretend flag if nobody minds either. Anyways, place your right hand on your heart. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Shall I go to the next agenda item?
Yep, roll call.
Okay. Could I please have roll call of commissioners present? Do I have to leave that? Okay, I'll do it. Paloma Concordia? Is that a here?
Sorry, yes, here.
Thank you. Sorry. Francis Espiritu. You're on mute.
Okay, yes, here.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
And did we say Mr. Hill is going to be late?
Yeah, it looks like currently not present. If he does join us, we'll make sure to change the meetings to the meeting minutes to reflect that, excuse me. And then I will do your roll call, Commissioner Manio.
Okay, and Mariquita is absent. And for me, Mr. Phipps.
Present, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is approval of our minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Manio. So the minutes for the previously regularly scheduled meeting on April 8th have been provided to commissioners and are posted on the city's website for reference. Unless a commissioner desires, and to be respectful of everybody's time, similar to last meeting, I would like to dispense with the reading of the minutes and approve them as distributed. Commissioners, do you have any corrections to the minutes you would like to see reflected?
No, I do.
No,
Okay, thank you. The minutes are approved as distributed. And I will pass it back to Maybell regarding the next item.
Great. So Now we will move on to discussion item 1, disposable food service ware proposed ordinance. Welcome guests.
Thank you, Commissioners. Brandon, will you please enable share screen?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Is it going to be you that's sharing, Leilani?
Yes.
Got it. Oh. Okay, try it now.
Okay. Okay, can everyone see the screen?
Looks good.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. I am Leilani Ramos, Assistant to the City Manager and lead for the city's sustainability efforts. This evening, I will be providing an overview of a county-led initiative aimed at reducing the use of plastic disposable food serviceware in Daly City, and I look forward to your input as it relates to the small business community. Let's begin with defining disposable food serviceware. Disposable food serviceware refers to one-time use items associated with food, such as bowls, plates, clamshells, and other to-go boxes, utensils, cups, and their related accessories, including straws, napkins, condiment packets, and cocktail picks. A lot of these items are also known as single-use and are often made of plastics. In our current society, many of these single-use plastics are used for just a few minutes before becoming waste. Once they become waste, they oftentimes end up as litter on our streets. Bay Area litter studies have found that plastic food and beverage packaging comprises the majority of street litter, half of which comes from fast food and takeout food establishments. Once on the street as litter, they can enter our storm drains and pollute our waterways, bay, ocean, and beaches. Plastics don't break down into their original components. They just become smaller and smaller pieces of plastics, referred to as microplastics. Microplastic pollution in our waterways will actually absorb other pollutants, becoming toxic waste that is consumed by fish, birds, and other wildlife. These microplastics are now being found in the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, and even in us. Largely due to information sharing on social media, the problem of plastic pollution is now well known, and public support for sustainable alternatives is at an all-time high. Cities and countries around the world are taking action, and so are private businesses. For example, popular food delivery apps have recently implemented options for users to decline the addition of plastic utensils to their orders, and you might have noticed that many restaurants are already using plastic alternatives. In addition to the environmental impact plastics have on the natural environment, more recent instability in the international plastic recycling market has led most waste haulers throughout the Bay Area and the state to treat certain types of plastics as contamination. These types of plastics are now landfilled as recycling markets have declined. While the global recycling industry remains in a tailspin, jurisdictions must find ways to address these issues locally. Waste haulers are working with local governments, the state, and other partners to explore a long-term sustainable plan to address this challenge. The County of San Mateo has been a leader in sustainability initiatives for over a decade, and banning disposable food serviceware is not new. In 2011, the county led an initiative to ban food vendors from using polystyrene-based disposable food serviceware, such as styrofoam. Daly City joined this effort in 2012. The county also led the countywide reusable bag ordinance, essentially banning single-use plastic bags in retail establishments, which the city adopted shortly thereafter in late 2012. Since 2018, San Mateo County has been leading its latest initiative to expand the ban on disposable food serviceware beyond polystyrene to include more single-use plastics. The county is currently working with interested cities on solutions to the plastic waste challenge because it will be valuable to have a policy that is uniform and consistent across the entire county. The county is so invested in this effort that it will lead the education and enforcement for those cities that adopt the county's model ordinance. In support of this initiative, the city has conducted extensive outreach and education, including notifying the city council of this county-led initiative, developing a dedicated webpage to educate the community about single-use plastics, and launching an online survey beginning in September 2019. The city conducted targeted outreach to 293 food facilities in October 2019. Due to the significant impacts the pandemic had on our business community, we postponed efforts to adopt the model ordinance in spring 2020. To provide education and answer questions related to disposable food serviceware, the city hosted 2 online sustainability workshops for businesses in partnership with Republic Services in November 2020. And as we resume efforts, the city is relaunching the online survey, seeking feedback from the Small Business Commission tonight, and we'll be hosting future online sustainability workshops for businesses with Republic Services this summer. Staff is recommending to join the county-led initiative to reduce single-use plastics and other foodware waste, and will be bringing a proposed ordinance to the City Council for consideration and adoption in July. The objectives of the ordinance are threefold. First, reduce waste that's both generated and sent to the landfill by 1, eliminating the unnecessary distribution and use of disposable food serviceware that is not reusable or compostable, and 2, reducing waste at its source. Second, improve the health and safety of Daly City residents and the greater San Mateo County community by eliminating disposable food serviceware that is harmful. Third, help the city meet its municipal regional stormwater permit requirement. By July 2022, the city is required by the state to ensure that trash and litter, which are largely made of disposable food serviceware, are not ending up in our stormwater. This ordinance will be an important tool for the city to keep harmful materials out of our natural environment. I would also like to note that if passed, this ordinance will repeal the existing polystyrene ban ordinance and replace it with this expanded ordinance. This ordinance will impact all food facilities located in Daly City. Food facilities are defined as any entity that provides prepared food for public consumption. Prepared food is food that undergoes some kind of on-site preparation, whether it's cooking, heating, blending, mixing, or portioning. The general rule of thumb is if an entity needs a health permit with the county's environmental health services to operate, then it's an automatic requirement that the food facility comply. Some examples of food facilities include restaurants, food trucks, private schools, catering operations, and vendors at farmers markets. Approximately 267 food facilities will be impacted by this ordinance. And while some currently use reusables, many utilize plastic disposable foodware to distribute food. So further education and outreach efforts will be provided to help these businesses transition should the City Council adopt this ordinance. In terms of what types of food service will be impacted items include a variety of large foodware, such as plates, bowls, cups, food trays, and clamshells, to name a few. It will also impact specific food accessories. Accessories are the smaller side items like straws, stirrers, utensils, and cocktail picks that usually accompany food and beverages that we consume. For these items that I just mentioned, they will not be allowed to be plastic. That includes traditional plastics or plastics made from fossil fuels that we have been using for decades. Examples of some of the common traditional plastics we use are pictured here on the blue tray. In addition to traditional plastics, items made entirely of compostable plastics will also not be allowed. Examples of compostable plastics are pictured here on the purple tray. Compostable plastics are the newer, greener alternatives to the traditional plastics because they feel and look like plastic, but they are supposed to break down into usable compost in the right conditions in an industrial composting facility. However, there are some problems that have been identified with compostable plastics. While they look and feel just like traditional plastics, as you can see here on the slide, it's very hard to distinguish one from the other. Because of this, it can become confusing to identify the differences and properly sort them. So these items end up getting thrown into the blue recycling bin and not the green compost bin. This contaminates the contents of the blue bin, which then gets sent to the landfill. Another problem is once in an industrial composting facility, not all of the compostable plastics break down into reusable compost, and the residuals end up getting screened out and sent to the landfill. Additionally, if they end up in our ocean, beaches, and street as litter, they will not break down into compost. They will just break down into smaller and smaller pieces, just like traditional plastics. Given the problems with compostable plastics and the problems with traditional plastics, the county decided to shift away from plastics altogether. Since all plastics will not be allowed, acceptable alternatives will be items made from natural fiber. Natural fiber includes items made from paper, sugarcane, wheat stalk, bamboo, wood, and hay, such as those pictured in the green tray. As you can see, these natural fiber-based items are easily distinguishable from their plastic counterparts. Although items made entirely of the compostable plastics will not be allowed, natural fiber-based items like the soup bowl you see here in the middle of the tray will be allowed to be lined or coated in compostable plastic for safety reasons. Basically, we wouldn't want them to break apart when you're putting liquids in them like hot soup. It's important to note that if they are lined with compostable plastic, they will need to meet a specific requirement, which I will be discussing next. In addition to being natural fiber-based, the larger items like the soup bowl have to meet one additional requirement. They have to be free of toxic chemicals called fluorinated chemicals. Fluorinated chemicals are used in these types of items to make the container water and grease-proof. However, there are studies that say that fluorinated chemicals are dangerous to our health. For instance, they cause different types of cancers. So we need to make sure that the items that we accept are free of these toxic chemicals. How do we do that? Well, we just need to look for the BPI logo on the item itself or on the packaging the item comes in. BPI is a nonprofit organization that runs a certification program that verifies two things. One, these types of items do not have fluorinated chemicals intentionally added, and two, that natural fiber-based items like the soup bowl will break down into compost in an industrial composting facility when lined with compostable plastic. The county has prepared a sample list of approved disposable foodware resources for our food facilities to use when selecting items that will be in compliance with the ordinance. While the county's model ordinance does not include a requirement for food facilities to implement reusable food serviceware, the county's campaign for a plastic-free future encourages reusables instead of disposable foodware. Reusable foodware reduces waste because it's not thrown in the trash after just one use, and it reduces litter from plastic packaging. While a significant part of the ordinance focuses on changing the type of item that is used, it's important for jurisdictions to keep exploring opportunities to reduce waste generation at its source. With that in mind, the proposed ordinance includes requirements that impact how accessories are distributed by food facilities, since accessories make up a large portion of litter that end up on our streets and in our waterways, bay, ocean, and beaches. For instance, accessories will be distributed only when they are needed by the consumer, specifically only when requested by the consumer, when the consumer accepts an offer by the food facility, or at a self-service station. The proposed ordinance does provide automatic exemptions for the following: prepackaged food, polystyrene coolers and chests, disposable food serviceware made from aluminum, disposable plastic straws may be provided upon request to consumers with medical needs. Healthcare facilities may distribute disposable plastic straws without a request from the patient. Drive-through areas of food facilities may distribute straws and cup sleeves without a request from the consumer. And if no reasonably feasible disposable food serviceware alternative exists. The cost to switch to natural fiber-based foodware ranges from 1 cent to 27 cents more per item, depending on size, type, and material. It's important to note that the cost of these items have come down significantly over the past couple of years, since more and more vendors are making the switch to more environmentally friendly foodware. We anticipate costs will continue to decrease as manufacturers increase. These small cost differences between petroleum-based plastics and fiber-based compostable food serviceware are minimal when compared to the cost of plastic pollution to the environment, to wildlife, and to our own health. Those costs to society are not accounted for with the use of plastics, but we all pay the price. The county has been working diligently to prepare and gather extensive resources for businesses, including a purchasing guide of samples of approved disposable and reusable foodware, discount codes for disposable foodware, a list of disposable foodware distributors and manufacturers, a list of temporary exemptions for compliant foodware where alternatives currently do not exist, implementation tip sheets for restaurants, grocery and convenience stores, food trucks, temporary food facilities, and cafeterias, one-on-one technical assistance with the Foodware Aware program team, including a dedicated hotline, email, and site visits, both virtual and in person. Webinars inviting food facilities to learn about the new requirements, available resources, and recommended next steps, and they can also meet foodware distributors and manufacturers. financial incentives for compliant disposable foodware for underserved food facilities, which specifically include food facilities located in San Mateo County whose owners live in zip codes 94014 and 94015, as well as to switch to reusable foodware for all food facilities. Limited funding is available up to $300 on a first-come, first-served basis. And coming soon are outreach and education materials targeted for staff and customers, including window cleans, employee flyers, and props. In terms of next steps, staff will be recommending to the City Council to join the county and neighboring jurisdictions, currently 8 cities in San Mateo County and growing, to take this next step in addressing the plastic waste challenge. Staff plans to set time and place for the public hearing on June 28th and introduce the proposed ordinance on July 26th. The county's original operational and enforcement date was set for March 25th, 2021. However, the Board of Supervisors postponed this date by 1 year because of the impact COVID-19 has had on our restaurants and other food facilities. Since the city understands that many in our business community are still recovering from the pandemic, staff is recommending to postpone the effective date of the city's ordinance beyond the County of San Mateo's March 25th, 2022 date and make it October 1, 2022 to allow for an additional 6 months for businesses to prepare and transition. Staff believes this is a good middle ground in terms of understanding what food facilities are going through right now, while not completely compromising the city's progress toward tackling plastic pollution. The council can also revisit the ordinance at a later date and decide to push out the start date even further if conditions have not improved for our restaurants and food facilities. The county will still lead education and enforcement efforts despite the postponed effective date, and enforcement is primarily on a complaint basis. However, since enforcement will not take effect until 2022, the county has developed a sustainability ambassador program to address the rising concern of the flood of accessories from the increase in takeout as a result of COVID during this gap year. Outreach will center specifically around promoting and educating food facilities to only distribute foodware accessories like utensils when needed by the consumer, either by request or through dispensers and self-service stations. The county will provide support to cities who implement a similar volunteer program. Let's join the county in taking this next step to reduce our carbon footprint, reduce the amount of waste sent to landfills, and protect our environment and health. Staff is available to answer any questions. Thank you.
So much, Ms. Ramos, for that wonderful presentation. It's very insightful. Are there any questions or comments from my fellow commissioners? Welcome, Mr. Hill. I see you.
Hi, everyone. Apologize for the tardiness. I had another board meeting that went over, but I'm here.
I have a question, Ms. Ramos, if that's okay. Could you elaborate a little bit more on the ambassador program? I know you said that the county was going to provide some resources. Like, what specifically is that?
So we actually have our county rep in Sue from our Office of Sustainability. She can go into more detail. It's really just the print materials and also providing support when we're having sessions with any of the businesses that would like to meet to learn more.
Okay, but there's no resources for these small businesses to meet these new regulations.
There are financial incentives that the Office of Sustainability through the county has. I can go back to that slide.
Thank you.
So there is up to $300 available for San Mateo County food facilities whose owners reside in our zip codes, so 94014 and 94015. Funding is limited and first come, first served basis. And they're both available for the compliant disposable foodware as well as reusable foodware.
Okay. Is there a list of preferred vendors? And then if we could compile that list, could these business owners and restaurants band together so that they receive it at a better wholesale cost?
I don't know specifically if they can band together. The county has put together an extensive list of compliant foodware as well as vendors that offer that. They've worked out discount codes with the vendors as well so they can receive them at a discount.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I have a question with food trucks. I mean, I consider them to go, like, I don't know if Ceremony still doing the like food truck evenings. I forgot what it's called, sorry. But is that, if people are ordering from that, like, is that considered, are they gonna need to have like reusable?
So the ordinance, the county's model ordinance will require the compliant disposable foodware. So switching from the plastics to natural fiber based, and it will include food trucks as well.
Okay, yeah, so they'll just need to make sure it's compliant, not
Yes.
necessarily have like dishes.
Yes, and if it makes sense for them to use reusables, then we will be encouraging that use of reusables. And the county has resources to switch to reusables as well.
Mm-hmm. And then what is the campaign, I guess, for restaurants to know about this? Is that, maybe I missed it, but like, is anyone going, are they getting a mail letter? Is there someone calling them? Like, what is the process for all these businesses to know that this is happening? Or maybe that's our responsibility now.
It'll be both a county-led and city-led initiative. The county will be leading the charge with education. And then the city too, we have a dedicated webpage. We've done mailers in the past. So we would again be utilizing our social media webpage, print and e-newsletters as well to get the information out to the businesses. We'll also be partnering with Republic Services, our waste hauler, so that they can also promote the sustainability workshops that we conduct together, so that it's a live session that they have with both the city resource as well as our waste hauler to just ask questions, what we can do to help them. It's kind of a collaborative effort approach we're taking. And I do see that we have our county representative, Ms. Lim, with her hand raised.
Great. Thanks, Leilani. Can everybody hear me? I always get nervous about these virtual webinars. And thank you so much for inviting me to this commission. It's great to see the City of Daly City forming a small business commission. I think it's a very important objective. And just to, Leilani's right, in terms of collaboration, there's going to be a very tight collaboration between the county as well as the city. And in terms of like how we're going to be doing outreach to the impacted food facilities, there's actually a huge campaign. So just to give you some examples, the county, we hired a consultant team late last year. And so we're working with them fast and furious to develop lots of different collateral, which is available on our Foodware Aware program website. And so that's going to be the centralized area where food facilities can go to download all existing resources, including what we call a purchasing guide that includes compliant items that they can buy to come into compliance with the ordinance, examples of vendors as well as distributors and manufacturers who they can reach out to who are selling those compliant items. We're also going to be sending out multiple mailers. Our consultant team is going to be literally picking up the phone and calling at the food facility, every food facility at least once, and follow up with an email. So we're really trying to make direct contact. And for those that are requesting additional support, we have available, we could provide them direct support through the phone, virtual meetings if they like. We also have budget set aside for in-person site visits as well. So we understand that doing a lot of one-on-one support and technical assistance to the food facilities are super important to really bring up the right impact for this program. So we devoted a big chunk of our budget to really providing that technical support to the food facilities. And of course, the traditional emails, we're going to have lots of ads, digital as well as in paper. We're working with a lot of our community organizations to have them push out the information to their networks. We're going to be working with community-based organizations so that they could help us get to the hard-to-reach food facilities and restaurants within those tight-knit sections of the community that's a little bit hard to reach. So we're, really attacking this from every different avenue that we can find, but we are definitely open to our city partners' recommendations for how to campaign better and conduct outreach to the impacted food facilities.
Thank you. And then I'm assuming that it'll be like in different languages that affect our community.
Absolutely. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, and I'm so sorry. I always do this. I always forget to introduce myself. So my name is Ensu Lim. I'm Senior Sustainability Specialist with the County San Mateo's Office of Sustainability. Okay, so I have that on record. And I'm really sorry I did not introduce myself in the beginning. I get so excited and I want to just jump right into answering your questions.
Yeah, I have one question. So when is the start of application for the 300? I mean, because you mentioned it's a limited funding amount. So when would be the campaign start to announce it to our community?
Leilani, do you want me to get that one?
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. We could start the campaign as soon as the Daly City Council, if the City Council approves and adopts the ordinance, as soon as it's adopted and as soon as the county enters into an agreement with the city around enforcement and education, we could start right away the next day. I mean, we already have that system set up because we have some cities that are actually, we have Half Moon Bay, city of Half Moon Bay is going to be launching. It's going to be the first jurisdiction to launch this campaign. It's next month. So the county is working furiously right now with our consultant team to get everything ready. And that includes the incentives, the outreach materials and everything. So if Daly City chooses to adopt this ordinance and it's enforced, October 1st, 2022, the city is going to be in a very good position to really, take advantage of the existing incentives because we will already have set up all those programs and initiatives well ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. Can you guys hear me? I'm trying this new. Hi, Ms. Ramos. Thank you for all your help, by the way. A few questions. First, how did you guys arrive at the $300 amount? And I'm just curious, because it seems like a project of this magnitude, you would want to incent it more heavily on the front end to get participation and buy-in. That's just one thought. And then what parameters do you have in place to sort of provide enforcement once the program kicks off? Or not just enforcement, but more monitoring to make sure things go the way they are, the way they're supposed to. And then lastly, since Half Moon Bay is starting before most people are, I think that would be a great opportunity to kind of have the consultants or whoever kind of assess and benchmark some of their successes as well as some of the learning points that we could actually and document it so we in Daly City and other municipalities can use that as a benchmark as we do the implementation in our area. I know I threw a lot at you.
Ms. Lim, I'll have you talk a little bit more about the enforcement as well as how the county arrived at the $300 amount.
Sure. And I'm busy taking notes here, so I'm like
Okay.
multitasking.
Yeah, no worries.
So for the $300, that is a value that our one of our consultants came up with. So one of the consultants in our consultant team, they are called Rethink Disposable of Clean Water Fund. So they actually work directly with restaurants to help them switch to reusable foodware
Right.
And so it's based on their years and years of experience and working with dozens and dozens of restaurants and helping them switch to reusables. They came up with, a good starting number that's sufficient enough to really incentivize and make an impact on a food facility like a restaurant to help them switch to reusables is $300. That's the kind of the initial price point. I'm
sorry. I'm just curious. Is it a one-time payment or is it an ongoing for a certain period of time? $300.
It's one time.
Okay.
One-time payment.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. And your question about enforcement. So it's complaint-based. So the way that works is if a member of the public or if a city or county staff sees that a food facility in Daly City, for instance, is not complying, if they're using plastic to distribute food to the public, then the member of the public or the local government staff could, one way, they could submit a formal complaint, either through the phone, they could send it through email, or fill out a complaint form that we have online to report that food facility that is in violation. Mm-hmm. And once we get that report, we send out our consultant team to re-educate that food facility. Mm-hmm. And for us, that's really, really important. So our priority is not to penalize our community members whatsoever. Our priority is to educate them and train them and really be partners with them in this effort. So we really want to reserve the fine, the penalty, strictly for those repeated violators. Mm-hmm. But we do have a system in place. So we're going to be relying very heavily on our public. So as part of this campaign, we're also not only trying to reach out to our impacted food facilities so that they're, kind of shifting and transitioning their operations. We're also going to be doing a campaign towards our community as well, the general public, to inform them of the campaign so that they are aware of this, these new requirements, so that when they do see restaurants that are not in compliance, they are aware and able to, inform the county on the violation, so the county could reach out and help that food facility come into compliance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, one more.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you did. Thank you.
And Commissioner Hill, you also did recommend using Half Moon Bay as an example to learn about their successes and their challenges, as they are the first city to implement. And I am working closely with the representative in the sustainability department for Half Moon Bay. So we're in communication, and I will be planning to learn what worked, what didn't work, and see what we can do as we implement our program in Daly City.
Yeah, that's excellent.
I have another question around like fast food restaurants. Like, is McDonald's and Burger King, like, In-N-Out, like, are they already, like, I don't know, is their paper products already compliant, or like, how are they, as like the bigger corporations, going to be adjusting or held accountable, since, like, I know that's a franchise, and like, how does that work for those businesses?
Yeah. Leilani, can you take this one?
So we've actually, when we were first leading the efforts with the county in 2018 and 2019, because they're bigger facilities, and this has been plastic pollution and handling those challenges have been on their minds. A lot of them are already transitioning to the items that will be compliant. So we had conversations with McDonald's, for instance, as they were learning about this effort and wanting to kind of take a proactive approach. So I think that most of them have already implemented measures, and if not, we will be working with them to make sure that they will be compliant. Of course, this is all contingent that our city council will approve the ordinance.
And just to add to that, so we are very aware that the fast food and the franchises are kind of in a different boat than the typical, restaurant, like mom and pop restaurants, because they do have to kind of deal with corporate. And so you have to kind of go up the ladder to start talking to corporate. And we actually started doing that with some of the franchises that are in Half Moon Bay, like the Costco's. We started talking with McDonald's already. So, and for those big companies, we understand that they're going to need additional time for some of them to make this transition because of the complications in their corporate chain. But it might be challenging, definitely, for sure. I know other jurisdictions that are undergoing similar campaigns and ordinances are going through the same kind of process. And it's very new, but what is encouraging is that we do have these corporate chains and franchises like reaching out to us. So we have the McDonald's, the Dunkin' Donuts, and the Baskin Robbins reaching out to us in Half Moon Bay to see how they could be in compliance, or if they already are, just to confirm that they are in compliance. So they're hearing about the ordinance, which is really great, and they're reaching out to us directly and checking with us. So we're hoping to keep that momentum going through by pushing out and sending out mailers and getting the word out about the ordinance, and working with these big companies, including franchises and these chains.
Great, thank you.
Oh, okay. I have one more question, please. Would home-based baking or home-based restaurant, would that also qualify under the program?
Yes, there'll be all food facilities in Daly City. So anyone preparing, packaging, portioning, they would all be under this ordinance.
Okay.
Oh, actually,
Thank you.
Leilani, can I make a little edit to that?
Sure.
Okay, so that's a great question. So I think if it's, I'm sorry, I couldn't see the gentleman who asked about that question. But
I'm sorry.
are you talking about?
Yes, go ahead.
Are you talking about cottage food specifically?
No, like, or because now they're preparing, like ready meal pastries too. They also provide pastries ready, for picked up, delivery, that are being prepared at home. So that's the question that I was,
Yes, and that's a great question, because if they are actually considered labeled as a cottage food, and cottage food facilities are usually entities that typically make like bread and bakery at home, and they wrap it and they sell it, and they have a special designation, and they have to apply for special health permits through the county's environmental health services. So if they have if they're under that category, they actually are not considered a food facility. So that particular type of cottage food industry, they do not have to comply. But that is not to get confused with another type of food facility. I think they're called micro home enterprises or something like that, where
Yes.
they make actual food beyond bread and bakery. They're a little bit, they handle more foods in more different ways. So for those food facilities that have that special micro enterprise food facility category, they will need to comply. So it really depends on, you have to kind of like really make an assessment of the observation. And we really rely heavily on the county's environmental health services health permit list to see who is eligible and who is not.
Okay, thank you.
Questions or comments from commissioners?
I just want to say I'm happy to hear this. So I appreciate the teams behind this ordinance, and I think it's something that is needed, and it's great to see Daly City is getting on board, and the county as well. So thank you.
Likewise, Commissioner Concordia, and I do appreciate that Daly City is extending the deadline to meet these guidelines past what the county is offering. I think that we're definitely checking the temperature of the economy right now, and it's been devastating specifically toward our restaurant industry. So this is just another added cost for them, and we can't just kind of glaze over that fact. And in that public comment that was sent out, it shows the costs of what it's going to take for these businesses to be compliant, and it could be pretty pricey for some people, especially who are already devastated by the pandemic. So I definitely appreciate that. If there are no other comments, are we taking action on this, Mr. Phipps?
So no particular action this evening, and yeah, Stephen or Leilani, feel free to jump in with additional comment. What I will say is that if there are particular recommendations that we can provide to council, commissioners, feel free to speak up, and we will be summarizing the recommendations and this evening's discussion and providing it to city management staff to route to city council.
Yeah. If I can add, I think, obviously, our environment is critical, for our present and for our kids' future. So the good idea, I mean, this is a great idea. It's long overdue. But like all great ideas, they have to be executed in the current environment. And we all know what the current environment is. I think one of the keys is going to be, which I think Ms. Lim stated earlier, is outreach. I mean, outreach, and more outreach. And I've found through working with some other organizations, the more aggressive you are and sort of flood the market with outreach early on, it seems like you're putting a lot of costs out, but you tend to get early adoption and quicker adoption, right? And I think that's the point. And that sort of minimizes minimizes the fines and the negative retributions on the back end. So definitely would like to encourage, obviously the opportunity to use Half Moon Bay as a prototype, but at the same time, just strong outreach. And then when we go to implement it in Daly City, we really have to, really notify people, because, you're going to have the early adopters. There's a transition period, and we want to give people the ample opportunity to transition without there being any negative impact on them.
Can I ask a quick clarification question, Ms. Ramos?
Sure.
Fantastic. Regarding the $300, I'm wondering what's the total that's going to be drawn down from? In other words, how many businesses could we potentially help with a $300 credit?
That I will actually ask Ms. Lim.
And that is a fantastic question. And to be honest, we don't know. We have a specific number, a budget set aside for the entire program, which will serve every jurisdiction that adopts the county's ordinance. But I can't tell you a specific number for Daly City because we don't know which jurisdictions will be adopting the ordinance. And so the amount that is allocated to each city will depend on which jurisdictions end up as part of the county effort. I hope that makes sense.
Sure. So yeah, it sounds like this is an incentive to potentially approve on the sooner end rather than the later end.
Right. First come, first serve.
Right.
And I just want to add, if the rebates, if the financial incentives are really, really popular, and that's another, and maybe this is something that, if the city of Daly City's, the council member adopts something that, we can ask for your help in because of your ties to businesses, is to really get the word out to restaurants and food facilities about the incentives. But because it seems like local governments, we have a lot of programs where we're pushing out rebate, free money to the community. But even when it's free, it's really hard to get folks to like go after the money.
Right.
It's really, really fascinating how, because they have to apply, they have to submit an application. We don't know what the barrier is. So we're trying to make it as easy for the community members to apply for the free money. So if the city council, again, chooses to adopt this ordinance, and if you can help get the word out to your network about the existence of the incentive, then if there's a lot of interest among food facilities, then I could take it back to the Office of Sustainability here at the county and see if we could find some additional money, or maybe we could work with Leilani and the city to see if we could, get a contribution started
Right.
to increase the funding for the businesses. So there are a lot of options out there. There's just a lot of uncertainty in terms of what the demands for the incentives are going to be. And that's one of the things that we will be keeping a close eye on.
Thank you, Ms. Lim.
That's actually something that I wanted to suggest, Ms. Lim, to the city of Daly City, is if we could contribute to those incentives and even add an extra layer, possibly of giving more to the early adopters that meet the guidelines well before the deadline. And if that is a suggestion that the commission wants to make, Mr. Phipps, is that something that we would have to vote on?
I think we can entertain a vote in terms of deciding on particular recommendation items, but I also think we can maybe do it a little bit more informally. If there's an informal consensus, I think that we can consider that sufficient.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. We actually don't need to take a vote. We'll take all feedback from everyone. It doesn't have to be a unanimous decision by all of you. We'll take any of the feedback back to the city council. So no need for a formal vote.
Thank you, Mr. Stolte. Any other final comments or questions before moving on to the next discussion item? Okay, hearing none. I will close this item.
Mr. Phipps, we should probably take public comment on this item. I see there is one member of the public with a raised hand.
Oh, certainly. Yeah, Ms. Liu. If you'd like to speak, please go ahead and unmute yourself and provide comment.
You'll have 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll be timing you over here.
Sure. Actually, Eva was going to go first. If you can wait on the timer, and then I'll speak. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eva Holman. Thank you so much for allowing us to show up here for public comment. And a little background on me is I work for a national NGO called Upstream, and we work on implementing reuse systems and supporting reuse policies around the country. But specifically, I'm a policy organizer here in the San Francisco Bay Area, working in San Mateo County, Marin County, San Francisco, the East Bay, Cupertino and beyond on very similar policies to what you're all hearing tonight. And I wanted to first off come out in support of the model foodware policy and of Daly City implementing this policy. And it has so many wonderful things. The ban on the fluorinated chemicals is extremely important for human health and for eliminating long-term illnesses within our communities, and the reduction of the accessories. And accessories upon request is another just really important addition to this, as well as the ban on plastics, which, as we all know, are harmful from when they come out of the ground until when they go into our waste management stream. So seeing all of these things is great to see, and to see how close it looks like Daly City is to passing that. Our one request was that you consider making the reuse part of the policy not just suggested but mandatory, which is something that various cities around the Bay Area are doing. Specifically, Daly City has a model foodware policy very similar to San Mateo's, but in Sonoma County, and they've decided to add mandatory reuse onto their foodware policy. And what mandatory reuse means is that if you sit inside a restaurant to enjoy your meal at a table within the restaurant, you would eat on a real plate with a real cup and real cutlery. And with your to-go orders, you could still get a compostable PFAS-free food container. And with this mandatory reuse, restaurants would save a ton of money on purchasing disposables, and it would be a really big environmental win as well by reducing. And that's me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Ms. Liu?
Hi, everyone. I wanted to thank you very much for your time and your service to community. I'm Sally Liu. I'm a resident of Hillsborough, and I'm a community member of a new coalition called Reusable San Mateo County. Like everyone, I eat in restaurants all across the peninsula. And like all of us, we're aware of the amount of single-use plastics in our foodware. Leilani did an amazing job talking about, what are the concerns we all have about plastics in our environment, in our health, in our communities. So we just want to voice our 100% support of this ordinance and what it will do to reduce single-use plastics in our community. And like Eva, we are part of this effort to promote reusables in dine-in. And I know you have received our written comments where we were trying to support the city to not just look at the big picture, but to get into some details on cost. COVID has been horrific for our restaurants, and we really know it's had a huge impact. And the work that Rethink Disposable, which is the organization working with INSU and the county on this disposable foodware ordinance education and implementation, they've done such an amazing job showcasing how reusables for dine-in will save our restaurants money. And we looked at all of those case studies and really felt that we could look at representative examples that represent Daly City restaurants. And on average, it was saving like $5,000 a year. Once they spent the $300 on cost to transform to reusables. And then overall, for the restaurants, we didn't do all the different food trucks and different types of facilities, but just for the restaurants, we were talking about a $680,000 savings to our restaurants, which, as we said, under COVID, this is huge. So we think this is really, really valuable for the city to consider this amendment, because it's only going to help our restaurants. And of course, save on litter, save on trash going to our landfills and all. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. Ms. Fong, would you like to unmute yourself and provide public comment? 2 minutes.
Yes. Hi, how are you? My name is Daisy Fong, and I'm a resident of Pacifica, so a neighbor down south. And I'm also a member of the city's Economic Development Committee. So, and a volunteer for the Reusable SMC and a Pacifica Beach Coalition. So as a member of the Pacifica EDC, as you know, our role is to promote economic growth and development by providing assistance and work with local businesses to support and enable them to succeed and thrive. So I'm very conscientious about the challenges that business face, especially during this time, and to understand the concerns of what this ordinance may mean to businesses and impact on their operations. However, as a citizen of my community, I'm very concerned with the amount of plastic waste generated by single-use plastics and increase in the takeout, as we have all seen during this time period. I support the food ordinance, as I think it's the first step in addressing this issue. But as stated in the presentation of Lonnie, is that there isn't consideration for a reusable, to consider dine-in reusable. And I think that, as stated with Eva and Sally, that's something that the city should consider, is a dine-in reusable amendment to the proposal. I think you got our document, and we did really, with other team members, an analysis on restaurants of Daly City, what type of restaurants there are, what's the makeup. And then we also looked at different scenarios, including costs and impact, as well as what we found that transition to dine-in reusables will not only reduce waste, but also save restaurants money, as they do not have to consistently buy single-use products, they could keep reusing their same reusable dishware. I'm happy that you guys are considering this, and I really hope that you would consider the amendment. And thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Warren, would you like to provide public comment? Feel free to unmute
Yes.
yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk tonight. My name is Alejandra, and I'm a sustainability consultant. I work in San Mateo County, and I live in Pacifica, neighbor 2. And I wanted to speak representing restaurants from minorities like Latinx community and Filipino community. We know there's a really big percentage of Latinx and Filipino community owned restaurants in Daly City. I've been out there representing Reusable San Mateo County, talking to them about the importance of reuse for dine-in. And a lot of restaurants in Daly City are already using reusable options. So I'm out there talking to them, why are you doing this? And I wanted to share specifically a story from a restaurant owner. His name is Mario Sanchez. He's the owner of Los Cuates Taqueria in Daly City. And he's telling us how for him, it's just common sense to use reusables. They look nice, they taste better, they provide to a good customer experience, they are cleaner, they're easy to reuse, they save money. And most importantly, he said me that he's saving a lot of money because the pandemic gave him a really increasing cost for takeout containers. That he was not counting on that. And going back to dine-in and reusables is saving him money, and not only for the cost of takeout containers, but also for the amount of waste that he's avoiding. He told me that his contract with Republic is it's a really good option for him to use reuse because it reduced the cost of his monthly bill. So I recommend you, if you're pro-business, please talk to these businesses because they've been doing this for a long time. Reuse is a new concept. I know it sounds new and different, but actually it is the way that businesses have been providing their service for a very, very long time. Thank you for the chance to talk.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Warren. I am not seeing any additional hands raised. With that, I will move on to the next discussion item regarding a Daly City Legacy Business Program. Okay, so this slide deck was assembled in response to an expressed interest by commissioners to evaluate a potential legacy business program in the city. After presenting some high-level background on legacy business programs and summarizing some of San Francisco's legacy business program as a case study, I will open up the discussion to questions and comments from commissioners. So legacy business programs are generally geared towards celebrating and promoting historic, high quality, small scale, culturally relevant, and community serving businesses in local communities. They can engage in a number of activities, including some of those that you see here: historic preservation, business registration, marketing and promotion assistance, financial and technical assistance, among others. These kinds of programs are becoming increasingly popular in response to the high number of historic small businesses that have closed throughout the nation due to COVID-19, as well as more macro shifts, such as rural-urban migration and the tremendous rise in rental rates on commercial property in urban centers. Depending on what activities a legacy business program engages in, they generally fall into one of three categories. So a program, this is a capital P, is the most robust form of legacy business assistance and often contains regulatory measures and offerings of financial and technical assistance. As the most robust program type, it is also the most expensive and the most time intensive. A registry, second, implies a list of some sort, similar to the National Register, that's historic preservation registration, and celebrates participants in a way that is mostly honorific. Third, finally, an initiative is an educational program designed to raise awareness of legacy businesses and it is often marketed to community members in the form of a web page, an interactive map, or business-specific stories, creating an emotional connection between local businesses and community members. As will be touched on in the following slides, legacy business programs most often start out as a registry or an initiative, or a combination of both, and grow over time as businesses join the registry and as community members become aware of the legacy business community. So in looking at San Francisco's legacy business program, we see that it too started from relatively humble beginnings. San Francisco's first foray into legacy business assistance started in 2013 through San Francisco Heritage, which is a historic preservation body, when they launched a legacy bars and restaurant initiative. The initiative invited community members to experience the history of some of San Francisco's most celebrated eateries and bars through an online guide that back then was the first of its kind. So initially 100 businesses were inducted into the initiative that achieved longevity of 40 years or more, contained some kind of distinctive architecture or interior design features, and or contributed to a sense of history in the surrounding neighborhood. So following the success of the initiative in 2015, the city proposed formation of a two-phased legacy business program, a more full-blown business program. The first phase created the San Francisco Legacy Business Registry, which was open to businesses that had been in operation for more than 30 years. Nominations for this were managed by the County Board of Supervisors. So any member of the County Board of Supervisors could nominate, and the mayor of San Francisco could nominate. After nomination, there would be some kind of a public hearing with the San Francisco Small Business Commission, where a historic impact would be established. The second and more regulatory phase of the program formed a historic preservation fund that provides grants to legacy business owners and property owners that have legacy businesses as tenants. So at the time of approval, this was the first legislation of its kind in the nation to recognize notable small businesses as historic community assets and incentivize their preservation. The image shown on this slide is a screenshot of San Francisco's interactive map for legacy businesses. It is a branded resource that I recommend you guys explore if you have not already done so. It can be fun to explore, some of the gems that are hidden within the city that you may or may not already know about. Now taking a step back, the primary elements of San Francisco's legacy business program are shown here on the right side of the slide. As you can see, some are shaded green, some are shaded red. From my perspective, the red items are ones that are most unfeasible for Daly City to consider at this time, while the items highlighted in green may be more feasible. At the very least, however, any legacy business program will need to establish some kind of eligibility criteria, some kind of nomination and application process, as well as a process for selection or approval of nominated businesses. Like San Francisco's program, I would recommend that commissioners start by evaluating the potential for a small scale program in the city that has the ability to grow over time. So with all that in mind, I'd like to open up the discussion to the group and have provided some discussion questions for reference or inspiration. Do we really think that a legacy business program would be valuable for the city and for its historic businesses? Do any businesses come to mind that you'd like to share? Are there any selection criteria that you think would be most appropriate for Daly City for this potential program? What kind of activities do you think would be most suitable for a potential program to take on? And what kind of nomination, application, and selection process do you think would be the best fit? And with that said, I'll open it up to commissioners.
I'm sorry, Mr. Phipps, your last slide before this, you stated there was red areas. I don't see any red areas.
So just some text. I hope the color is working for PowerPoint, but in this primary elements of SF program list, The 3, 4, 5, 6, the first 7 I have shaded in green, and the bottom 2 I have shaded in kind of a reddish orange.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you for clarifying.
I guess
Initial thoughts from commissioners, questions?
the first question that comes to mind for me is, and I've heard about the San Francisco program, but I guess what does the Daly City Council hope to accomplish with the legacy program?
So this actually is an interesting case, Commissioner Hill, in which the commission has expressed an interest in discussing this topic. So I believe it was Commissioner Concordia specifically who brought this idea to the floor.
Okay.
It seemed as though Chair was in support of putting this as a discussion item on the agenda.
Okay.
So I think at this time, council has not developed a position
Right.
or any legislation related to forming a legacy business program. So it would be our job to summarize comments as we have done, or as we will do, excuse me, in connection with the previous item, and provide that feedback to council.
Okay.
Since I did bring it up, I'll start. Thank you, Mr. Phipps. I think it would be important to establish something like this for Daly City, especially now as we're coming out of the pandemic, or kind of, yes and no. And yeah, recognizing the businesses that have survived this far and honoring them in that, not just through the pandemic, but however many years that are decided, if it's a 20, 30, 40 year, I think that's honorable and for any business to continue for that long. So I think just for the morale of the city and for the business owners, the community, that it would be a morale booster and just something for the community to gather around. Maybe there's events that these businesses in the city could do to drive more business to them. So I think it is something to continue discussing and exploring how that would work out.
Any other comments from commissioners on this item? I think that a potential first step for us to consider would be, okay, does a registry make sense? As far as the lowest hanging fruit for a legacy business program, creating that list and doing initial outreach to businesses, maybe identifying nominating bodies, folks or groups that can nominate, could be, a relatively straightforward first step for us to consider. So with that in mind, does that resonate? A registry, and then maybe working to settle on nomination and selection processes and eligibility criteria.
Yes, I will say that sounds like a good first step.
I think I don't even know if I'm any kind of program that we, anything that we do to identify what businesses and to and create a system or vehicle to promote businesses. I can't even know if I'm hearing myself to this. I think could be valuable. I know we have talked about before gathering data on who are the businesses and what industries they fall in. And I think, this is potentially a great idea. And it adds some form to not just collecting the data, but a way to start a positive communication process with the business community. Mm-hmm. Although only thing I would suggest is I would not limit it to just those that have been here for a significant period of time, right? Because we know businesses have changed hands. So we should want to probably look at the business, but also look at, you know, some owners that have started businesses may have changed the name or may have transitioned to other businesses. And I think once we gather all the data, then we can sift through it and cut it and sift it and figure out which ones we want to specifically identify that have done something over and above, you know, traditional businesses.
I think to me, it's a good start, especially, you know, we'll be coming out from, you know, with the pandemic. I mean, also, it would be also a good part, you know, like every meeting, we could identify or honor one business in Daly City, and that would boost morale, you know. And I mean, that's the start. I mean, we're a small business commissioner, and we keep all saying that, you know, small business is the backbone of the community. So I think it would be nice, I mean, every meeting, if we could identify one and honor them, you know, just to acknowledge their, you know, their contribution in our community. So that's it.
I think as far as our role as commissioners, I just feel like within our jurisdiction, we're more an advisory role, and I feel like it should be council members that do the actual nominations by recommendation from us. And sorry to disagree with you, Mr. Hill, but I think legacy and I think long-term. So not to say that other small businesses that are newer or are younger don't deserve their recognition, but there's something to be said for the businesses that have been operating without any stoppages for 20, 30, 40 years here. It speaks volumes to their operations and their dedication to serving our communities. So I think that's what I hear when I think legacy, that it is a long-term, a long-standing business.
Just for a point of clarification, I didn't, just so that we're clear, I'm not saying that legacy businesses or businesses that have been around a significant period of time shouldn't be recognized. What I was trying to communicate, that when we collect the data, we should collect as much data as we can about the business community and then identify out specifically those that have been around for significant years and have done things. I just think that with the transition, they say the average business lasts about 5 to 7 years. And I've known businesses that have changed names a few times in different locations and new owners. So I think it's very important to identify and to recognize businesses that have just achieved a mark of being in business more than 5 to 10, 15, 20 years. But I think it's also important to understand who is in our business community.
Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Hill. I absolutely agree with you that there does need to be a baseline database of who is operating in this city and how long. And it's the beginning of a needs assessment and a needs analysis for what these businesses actually need from the city in order to continue to thrive here.
I'm always pleased when the first step is analysis. It means that any decisions that we make moving forward are going to be informed by local conditions. So I appreciate both of those comments.
Great suggestion, Ms. Cordy.
Okay, Commissioner. So it sounds like just from a high level regarding this item, there seems to be general support to continue to explore the potential for a legacy business program in Daly City. And as far as initial recommendation is concerned, sounds like doing some digging into, the legacy business community and understanding exactly what that looks like and what industries are represented is a good first step and good low-hanging fruit for us.
I think we should figure out how to use that. I think the woman that was on before, Alejandra, seems like she's connected with a number of our restaurants, at least in the Daly City community, to the extent that we can, kind of leverage her resources, any data that she's been able to gather. That'll be a good first step.
That's a good point. There may be opportunity for us to collaborate with county. Maybe they can help inform and fill in the blanks on some of the data that we may not have at the city level. Thank you. Not seeing any additional hands raised. Members of the public. So if there are no additional comments, I will move to close this item. Hearing no comments, I'll close this item and introduce the next item. Announcements and communications. Any announcements, communications from commissioners, maybe in connection with events or ideas that weren't able to be discussed at this meeting?
I do not have any.
Thank you. Hearing none.
Robin it?
Sorry, Mabel.
Could we round robin it?
Well, would you like to start it off?
Sure. I would like to suggest that since this is a new commission and we're still in this kind of space where, we're virtual, it's a little bit hard, at least for me, to connect on a human level when we're not, in person. If we could do something like a study session, specifically like for this legacy initiative that we're trying to push forward with, I think that would be great, just to kind of flesh out what we're talking about, what we think is important, and how we're going to move forward with it, and or kind of a retreat, specifically because this is a new commission. We don't all know each other. I know of the commissioners by way of, other personal connections and things like that, but I don't think everybody is connected. And I feel like if we're going to work together, that there needs to be some kind of gelling between all of us. So I would be open to a kind of retreat level. I know council does it. I know other commissions, the board that I'm on, we do it all the time. I think it's beneficial. It creates camaraderie. It helps us become more participatory in these meetings when we're more comfortable with each other. So those are my suggestions. And I just also want to wish everybody happy Father's Day, happy summer. I know a lot of our graduates ended school this week. So congratulations to them. And I hope, especially with the reopening of the state and of our communities, that we continue to be safe and aware of what's going on and the people around us. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone want to continue the round robin?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate, I would second with, President Commissioner Manuel, that once we have the opportunity to all meet and sit down and have a personal one-on-one, So rather than, this, but, but I think it would be nice, if we could find time for each of us to talk, communicate, share ideas. That would be, I'm onto it.
So I'll go next. I agree as well. I don't know about anybody else, but just being out and seeing things come back to some sense of normalcy, seeing people out. I forgot there were real people except for Zoom. But it's been good. And I think as great as Zoom has been for all of us to stay connected virtually, there's nothing like face-to-face and in the room connection and the brainstorming and the energy and the ideas that come about are fantastic. I would like to take the opportunity to thank Stefan and Ms. Ramos for all of their offices helping me deal with my ongoing dumping problem. You've been great, Ms. Ramos. And I actually have become pretty better at using iHelp. I actually got a link. Actually, I'm getting too many alerts from them. And I think going back to we had talked briefly about the legacy program, I think that would maybe it could potentially be a great opportunity based on how we use it to use our legacy businesses, particularly if we find that there is a significant number of them, to figure out, so to be the first step to figure out what businesses need, because obviously if they've been around that long, then they have a good idea of what some of the challenges and opportunities have been in, dealing in Daly City, but just operating the business. So looking forward to meeting everyone in person and working on this commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
Sure.
So I will say that the city is planning to reopen to the public after Labor Day. So if you would like to hold a special meeting in the form of a retreat or a study session where it's in person and you can really get that face-to-face interaction, our timeline for that would be after Labor Day, just to put that on your radars.
Thank you, Mr. Schulte. That's helpful.
Can I just say one last thing? Sorry, I know I already went. I was viewing the Planning Commission's meeting that just happened earlier this month, and they actually gave us a little bit of a shout out and were inviting to some kind of collaboratory process with zoning and land use. So just wanted to put that out there that they mentioned that.
And also, we did add all of the small business commissioners to the agenda mailing list for Planning Commission. So you will now all be receiving an email link to all the Planning Commission agendas. So you'll know kind of what developments are in the pipeline and how the Planning Commission is reviewing them if you attend. So I just want you all to know that you'll start receiving those emails. Those meetings are the first Tuesday of every month. So keep a lookout for those.
Yep, you guys are fully connected, and yeah, I think it's good to just keep a pulse for you folks to keep a pulse with Planning Commission, even if only to identify potential opportunities for collaboration. Final comments? Okay, hearing none, I will move on to the next item. Next meeting. The next regularly scheduled meeting is set for August 12th at 7 p.m. I know it's a ways away, but Does anybody know or are aware of any conflicts, perhaps vacation schedules? If any new information does come to light, please just keep me posted on your availability and your ability to attend. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, public comment. We did already conduct public comment in connection with the first item, and we did receive, as mentioned, some content prior to 4 p.m. today in connection with the disposable foodware ordinance. I have routed that content to our commissioners, so they have it. And since 4 p.m., let me just do a quick check. I have not received any additional public comment. So with that in mind, thank you all for being here this evening and contributing as you all have. And thank you to our visitors, Leilani, Stephen, and the rest of your team. And commissioners, I look forward to working with the rest of you in building the next agenda. Commissioner Monio, would you like to adjourn the meeting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Phipps. I will adjourn Daly City's Small Business Commission meeting at 8:32 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Good evening.
Thanks very much. See you next time.
Bye.